situation, and also what to do about that. So I think, Margaret, you're going to start off with a presentation, a beautiful presentation around this, and then we're going to sort of just see how we go, right?
Of course, of course. And yes, and just like what Daniel just said, there are a lot of single fathers out there. You're not with your children. However, you still contribute to the school run. I mean, you guys are doing an awesome and amazing job. We are going to share a presentation with you so that you can see what we're seeing. I suppose for me, being a teacher and a trainer, and I'm a visual learner as well. So I would feel like, okay, my clients needs to see what I'm seeing and do what, so that we can participate and we can talk a lot and see what's happening. For me, I'm really passionate about the single fathers, and because I've been working with them for quite a long time. So we just want to welcome you on this talk show. Men Don't Cry. I hear that so many times, and we're going to look at how that impacts us in our life, in our own limiting beliefs as fathers as we move forward. The Single Father Talk Show, the training, HNI training professional, we've been going for a long time. And like I said to you last week, we actually started the show just for single parent, the training just for single parent. Newspaper picked us up and says, this is really great, this is unusual. And yes, and 11 years later, I'm still here working with single fathers and as well as lone parents at the same time. So I'm truly blessed to be able to use both, to see both sides of the world, or both sides of the field, how people feel and how they think being single parents. Now we're going to look at, do men cry? Many of us as women, as well as I'm sure with the men out there, it's I remember growing up, they always say stiff upper lip, or I can hear my parents saying, oh, say my little brother was crying or something, or for some reason, my mom said, shh, men don't cry. Now imagine that's been told time and time again to you. How does that impact you when you finally become a man? How does that work? For me, I do feel men do cry. Men do have a breakdown. Men do get anxiety. Men do have emotions. Men do feel insecure. And I'm not looking at this in the most negative way, not at all. For me as a woman, the first time I ever saw a man cry, it really impacts me, because my culture, where I came from, men do not cry. And the very first incident that happened, I grew up in a village back in West Africa, and we call him the gentle giant. This guy told me, but he had time for us as little kids, always want to interact with us, play, talk, laugh, And then one day, I just saw this man rolling on the floor, crying. And as a young girl, I stood there because I've always remember him being laughing and joking, but this man was crying. And I kept thinking, why is he crying? Why? And there were all people around the house, his house, his family home. And then somebody, as I stood there looking and asked a question, normally back in those days, like, you're too young, you shouldn't know this, you're kind of being pushed away. But you know what? I actually insisted, wanting to know why this man was crying so bitterly. And just to find out that his mother passed away. And I'm like, wow. But seeing that really kind of impact me. Another situation that I saw or heard a man cry again, what we don't talk about men also do get abused by their partners. We don't talk about that. And for me, again, that was a situation that I saw as a child, that it was the other way around. It was the woman beating the man, but behind closed doors. And nobody spoke about that. Nobody intervened. So it was kind of confusing for me, because here I am saying that men don't cry, men are the head of the household, men are this. And then all of a sudden seeing the other side to it. I kind of thinking, wow, what happened there? So I suppose that's what brings me here today, the kind of work that I do, being really passionate to be able to understand, not completely, but how men feel, and the importance of us as women supporting and respecting the men in our community and in our lives as well. And how can we support men, to understand their struggles? Men who are single parent, they do struggle too. So for me, personally, seeing it through my experience with, also for me, one thing I did put in place, encourage, I got 2 boys. I encourage my children to cry if they are in pain. So I just want to encourage everyone out there today, as we're having this discussion, do men cry? For me, I've seen it, yes, they do. So I'm gonna pass on to Danny out there. What do you think? What do you think about men, this topic about men crying?
This topic is really close to me, because, as a young boy, when I went to school, for some reason, I'm quite sensitive. I'm very sensitive to people's words, to feelings. I feel a lot, and I could cry very easily at school, and just in general. And even my parents said to me that as a baby, I was always crying for some reason, and they always wonder, why is he crying? And so when I went to school, I realized that, if I cried, I was teased. Yeah, I was called all these words, these babies, like, just, and this was just for someone who's sensitive, this was even worse for me. And it didn't feel good at all. And I had to find a way of shutting down that emotion. Mm-hmm. Because if I did sort of start crying, or because of what someone said, or them being bullied, me being bullied, then it would just escalate and it would make things worse. So plus all this, everything that we're told, guys don't cry, or that used to be the narrative a few years back, and it still is to a certain degree, but it's like but now we're becoming more open. So I shut down my ability to release tears, and I didn't really understand how detrimental that was until later on. And I remember my father died about 12 years ago, and his funeral was in Poland. So I remember flying over to Poland, and I've got all my family. My father's body is there in front of in church, and then I've got all my family surrounding me, and the ceremony begins, and the women start crying, but all of the men have these stoic, serious expressions. No one's crying. None of the men are, at least. I wanted to, but for me, what came up was a fear of being seen as weak, which came from my childhood's fear of being seen as weak and not a man. So I held in the tears, and this was at my father's funeral. So out of all the places that you would think it would be okay to cry, would be a funeral, but I had conditioned myself so much because of my childhood experiences that I couldn't let go, even in front of my family. And it was only 3 months later when I was on like a 10-day meditation course, a silent retreat, where I had no choice but to face all of this stuff, that all of this grief started to be released and to let go of. And you know, and I found in doing that, there was a lightness, there was that, you know, physical pain disappeared. I had this immense shoulder and back pain at the time, you know, and I was thinking, why is the shoulder and pain here? Why am I constantly thinking these thoughts? And then, you know, 7 days into this meditation course, I just broke down and I cried for like 12, 13 hours, I think it was, all day.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
all day. And I was like, I remember going to the meditation teacher and saying, look, I'm a mess. I can't meditate. I'm just crying all the time. And he said one thing to me. He said, it's good that it's come out. Yeah. But it wasn't until the next day that I saw the impact of this. And, you know, my pain in my back and shoulders had disappeared and my mind was really silent and peaceful. And this is the story that I share when I go up on stage. I share this story because it's the one that started me on my journey of letting go. And yeah, so 100%. We're told that, you know, a lot of times we're still told men shouldn't cry, or there's this unconscious belief that we have that it's a sign of weakness. But in reality, when we let go, when, you know, guys let go, they start to reconnect. You know, they reconnect with their children, they reconnect with people around them. And this is not just men, it's everyone. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Wow, that is so powerful, because there are a lot of guys there, a lot of men out there that have been told over the years that men don't cry. And like I share my experience there. But just to add on that so as well, when we don't express our grief or our pain at that time in the moment, it does impact us, because I remember that impacted me as well, exactly what you've just shared. And I really agree with you there, because when my mother died, you know, I never cried. I didn't know how to cry, because all my life I was just kind of thinking, okay, you know, I needed to survive, that survival mode. Until when I went into the counseling course. And yeah, through the counseling course and through the training, one day I just sat there in the group of people, not even onto one-to-one counseling, and it just broke down and cried. And then the teacher took me out and then asked me what it was. And then that really helped just to release that emotions and begin to understand. So what would you say for men out there, because your story is powerful and men need to hear that story? And thank you for being part of this show and also sharing it out there. What would you say to men out there right now at this moment, listening to us, going through this journey? What would you encourage them to do? What steps?
I mean, it depends on exactly what their journey is. And, you know, you don't know until you speak to someone individually. But I mean, you know, if there's a sense of sadness or, you know, even anger, often anger is the cover emotion to sadness and grief. It's about being honest, really. It's like finding a way to perhaps express that honesty with someone in a group. And often I found, you know, when I went through my divorce, I had two of my friends were going through a divorce at the same time. So I was fortunate in that respect, and we could talk about our stuff. And you know, sometimes I would be speaking with them, tears would come up, and then I'm like, mate, give me, you know, 30 minutes. I need to just put the phone down. I need to cry. And I'm like, yeah. And it's about being honest and about that. But the thing is, sometimes when we're honest in that way and tears come, the people around us, because they don't know how to deal with their grief, they immediately try to avoid the subject and say, oh mate, just you know, just go out, have a drink, or, you know, go to a pub, and let's go to a pub. And it's not actually dealing with a root. But guys do that because they're not comfortable facing their own stuff. So when someone shares what they're going through deeply, because it brings out uncomfortable feelings within us sometimes, then we're like, we try to avoid speaking about it, or, oh, you'll be all right, you'll be fine, you know, or we start to say, oh, just, she's horrible, or you'll get over her, you know, all women are, you know, horrible bitches, stuff like that. And they'll try to direct, rather than dealing with the root cause, they'll try to direct anger at the other person without having to actually get to the root of the issue. And that's the problem. As long as we're angry at the other person, we cannot deal with the grief which is underneath us, which is within us.
So really what I'm hearing you saying, when you're going through the journey, is really to deal with the anger inside you, that root, that deep anger root, to deal with it, so that way it sets you free to move forward. To
understand it, yeah, it's to, you know, if anger comes up, it's to allow ourselves to feel angry without blaming anyone for it. So, you know, we may have anger towards an individual. A lot of the time it's towards an ex. But as long as we're stuck in that anger towards that ex, we're not going to see what's underneath the anger, which is usually grief and sadness. And a lot of guys will say, no, I don't agree with that. You know, and a lot of people say that, but until you let go of the anger, you can only then see, and people say they've let go, and yet often you'll see that they haven't. And that's okay. But this is why it's important to be completely honest. The key is really honesty and the courage to be vulnerable, to share what we're going through with others.
And that is so true, because sometimes as I work with men, last year we worked with 30 men. And Danny, that is the first time in my life. I'm normally a very humble person, but being in a classroom full of men, I was so humble as they open and share their story and share their journey. I'm like, wow, it's so insight and also encouraging as well to me as a woman, how I look at a man, how I speak to a man, how I treat a man. It's really kind of humbled me a lot. Thank you so much. Now, for me, another thing, because also what I saw a lot, you know, with the men out there, they are smiling and they are in pain. Would you think about this picture we're looking at right now? I mean, this is about how can, you know, all the things that you brought in, you know, looking at this picture, how do we get them to kind of remove those limiting beliefs and those blockage that's kind of stopping them moving forward?
Yeah, again, you know, it's like this picture is really apt for me, because when I was at school, I portrayed a mask of someone who's always smiling. Yeah, but it was to cover up pain. And we do that a number of ways. We do it for humor. We do it, you know, through, you know, anger as well. We do it for different ways to cover up what we're feeling inside. But again, it's about finding a community or a group or a friend that we can share our stuff with. And it may be being a man, you know, if you're like a normal guy and you're not used to expressing your feelings and none of your friends are, there's no way you're going to go to your best mate and share with them. Maybe there's, you know, there's certain groups of friends that you can do. I can do it with some of my friends, but I know many guys can't. And maybe their friends would laugh at them, or you know, just ignore the situation completely or not get to the root, in which case you maybe need a support network, or you need someone to just, you know, just to tell you, share with how you're feeling. So yeah,
I mean, just to add that, I read an article few years back, before I actually started the Father Talk Show or Be Pacific, working with single fathers and men. And one of the article, it was about this group of men. They've been friends since school days, literally been friends school days, you know, got married, they all got married, they got wives, they got children, and they meet at least once a week. It could be just meeting in the pub, going to watching football or whatever it is. But truly, none of them really spoke what the article was saying. None of them really spoke about what's happening in their lives. None of them, you know, because everybody's always jolly and everything was okay until one day, one of the friends died. It kind of impacts all of them. And just as he passed away, that's when actually they realized that he had cancer. He had been battling cancer throughout the years, you know, and that really impacts the friends out there, because they really realized, actually, we didn't know one another. You know, we didn't know one another. Although we met, we all know, you know, the family, their family, each individual's family meet up, but truly didn't know one another. So that's we looking at this picture here. I just want to encourage men out there to support your other fellow men. Be open and give them that that room and space for them to kind of share, you know.
Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah, it's really powerful, you know, when you can share without, you know, fear of being laughed at or made fun of. And yeah, it's especially if it's something, you know, really painful that's coming up. But yeah.
yeah. So overall, we encouraging men to share a lot more with their friends.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But they have to feel comfortable in doing so. And there may be you know, certain men that don't feel comfortable sharing, you know, certain details about their lives because of certain fears that they have. Women tend to be very good with sharing. And the other thing is, when you share and you're honest, all of the sadness or everything that is inside will start to come up. And if you don't always know how to deal with it, you don't know how. I say it feels weird to say don't know how to cry, because you know you're scared of what people will think. Then you won't want to share. And that was the case, you know, for me for a while, where I didn't share how I was feeling, because I knew as soon as I did, I would start crying, I'd get upset, and I didn't want to be seen as weak. So yeah, I held it in. I closed off. I
so
wasn't.
really, sorry about that. So really, for you to overcome all those issues and everything like that, it was through doing the program of meditation and also look deep inside you. What could you say to anybody out there, any man that's going through this journey at the moment? You know, just give us one tip that somebody out there can use, and you know, and men out there to be able to support other friends around them.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on the situation, you know, you've also from a sort of a meditation point of view, you know, taking up something like that is very helpful and powerful. Because it gives you the ability to look at your thoughts in a detached way, rather than going into the story and into the vortex of your thoughts. Because when you, as a man, and women do this as well, but mainly as a man, when you suppress an emotion, then you know, and you keep suppressing it, so you have this huge quantity of emotion, then how much you think, then the level of thoughts, your ability to stay in the present where joy really is, that becomes harder. So you start getting all these thoughts about this, you know, and people may get thoughts which are suicidal. They may get thoughts which are angry, and they've got these angry thoughts, these suicidal thoughts, these depressing thoughts, these thoughts that hopelessness and unworthiness. And this happens because we don't let go of our emotions. When we clear our emotions and we release and we cry, then the thoughts which underpin, which come underneath emotions are disappeared. The emotions start to, so the thoughts start to dissolve and we become more present. But as long as these emotions exist, then we're constantly stuck in time and in thought, and then that's when we can go down the spiral where we don't question our thoughts, we don't question the validity of what we're thinking, and we believe everything that we think. You know, we believe that, you know, our ex-wife is, you know, horrible, she's like this, she never cares for me. We believe, you know, we may start to believe our child doesn't love me. All of that arises from unquestioned thoughts and our ability to not to detach ourselves from our thoughts. And it's really important that we just sit in silence to just see what's happening.
I think that is a really good advice there as well, because sometimes our thoughts can consume us. I say that whether if it's a man or even sometimes as a woman as well, if we're not in check with our thoughts as well, it can spiral on the other side and take us under a road we do not want to go. So for men out there, you know, if you're going through this tough journey, please seek counseling. All right, seek counseling, seek coaching, life coaching, mentoring. And I always say when I'm teaching, like a lot of the long parents, for example, whether it's business startup or personal development, I always say to them, particularly if they're going through a lot of issues, I always say to them, look for somebody within your friend circle and share safely, because most of it, like you said, is about having that safe space for you to share. And particularly for men as well, to having that safe space to share. So men out there, I want to encourage you, start talking to one another, opening up with one another, and do not use it against to your fellow friend. You know, the pub is great, but let's talk more so we can reduce some of the anxiety that men goes through, the mental side of things as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we're going to look at how could they build their confidence. You know, for men that's going through that journey, they are coming through that journey, and to be able to gain their confidence. How could we do that?
I think for me, again, it's confidence. You can have confidence which is genuine and authentic, or you can have confidence that comes from like a mask. And for me, if you don't deal with the underlying emotions that create this lack of confidence, this unworthiness or not being good enough, then anything that you put on top of that isn't really going to work. Yeah, so ultimately, you know, you could, you know, in this sort of arena of self-development and personal improvements, you know, a lot of people are like, think good thoughts, think, and you become confident. But unless you deal with the underlying emotions, that becomes much, much harder. It's almost impossible unless you clear that underlying emotional energy that you have. But having said that, it's still good to look at what we're thinking, and when we think certain thoughts, to change and shift what we're thinking into something more positive that is in alignment with what we feel at the time, but it empowers us rather than disempowers us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does indeed. It does, because you know, be confident in yourself. It's literally also starting to believe within yourself as well. It's starting to deal with a lot of the underlying issues that is going on, and from there onwards, and also look for support and encouragement as well. But I love what you said, It's about being confident and you're wearing a mask, you know, inside you're crumbling, but yeah, everybody else out there is seeing you as this confident person, but behind the closed door, you're not quite there. So
yeah, and I think that's you know, you want to be, again, authentic and real, because that's the only way you'll allow all the stuff to come up so you can clear it, so you can be authentically confident. And that's really what we want to get to, a place where we're not pretending we're confident. You know, we clear our stuff, and so we are confident. But what life may bring us as situations where perhaps as a single father, you cannot see your child.
oh,
Yeah, you cannot see
that's
your child.
true. That is true. Yeah.
And you know, you've lost connection with them. You know, you've lost connection with probably the most important person in your individual in your life. You know, if you know, daughter or boy or son. And you know, this may really put us down a difficult spiral. And so how are we able to change our thinking to help us come out of that? And that's what's really important.
Again, taking time. And I'm so glad that you touched on that, because that was another thing that really humbled me a lot. When in the classroom, in this room full of men, and one of the things that kept coming up as well, not them being able to see their children, you know, not be able to speak to them. And those that managed to win the battle of custody to see their children, it actually impacts also their health. And that's one thing that I really, really saw there, that actually, eventually they did, you know, be able to see their children, but through that journey, it kind of impacts their health, their mental well-being at the same time. I just want to share a story there as well. I know society tend to speak a lot about absentee fathers, all right? And not so much that the fathers out there that are actually there for their children. You know, one of the incidents that was in the classroom, one of the guy, I really felt for him. I mean, this guy was doing really well business-wise, you know, turnover and everything. He was doing really, really well. Making sure the family was well, making sure the family is comfortable, making sure all the bills are paid on time. In fact, paid the whole mortgage of the property, so everybody's come. And then also what he went in and doing in the business, he went and pay for the wife's training to handle the accounts and everything. And obviously she came into the business and starting to run the business with him. And then relationship starts to break down. And then obviously she kind of served him a notice of divorce. He said, Margaret, that just broke my heart. He said, that just broke my heart because I'm not expecting it. I know things weren't going well and kind of thing. I know there was a lot of arguments in the place, but I was focusing, making sure the family was well. You know, everything is provided. So I always like to ask the question, well, what happened? What happened? And it's all boiled down. He said, I lost myself in the relationship. I was so busy focusing, making sure the family is well, I actually forgotten about me. So as the divorce went through, obviously she got a lot of the stuff, making sure the house, and lots of things. The men, obviously, he had to move out. So that meant he went down a serious road of taking drugs, alcohol, because he couldn't cope. He's a family man. That's all he ever known. And then he went through the battle of fighting to have custody or share custody with the child. At the end, he ended up losing all his business. But the great thing out of it, through the training, through the coaching, through the mentoring, he went on to set up his own business. But this time now was actually working with single fathers. working with single fathers or working with men who are going through a divorce, a tough divorce, or a tough battle of custody. And I'm like, wow, look what came out of it. And just being in that environment with other men, just being in that environment, talking and sharing, it was absolutely powerful, you know. So guys, and that's why I'm really passionate about what I'm doing. But I also just quickly, I want to speak to the women out there. I really want to put it out there for the women. The children don't belong to you. I'm a single parent. I've got 2 boys, and the fathers to my children, they are always welcome to see their children if they wish to do so. It impacts our children when we hold on to them, don't see the fathers and everything like that. So I want to encourage any woman out there who is doing that kind of thing, please let the children see their fathers, because it also impacts the children later on. I just want to put that out there because I know what it's like. And I do understand what you're saying, Danny, when you're saying in terms of not be able to see your children when you're separating from the missus.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Thank you for sharing that message. I mean, I never had that issue with my ex. You know, she, you know, I was always in a position where I could see my daughter, and because I think part of the reason that was because I had let go what I remember when I first came on to your show, when we first split up in my divorce, I had this, you know, my ex-wife was quite challenging, to say, you know, and I got upset and she got angry, and there was these feelings. And when I decided to let go of the anger and to just see her, I made a choice to see her with love. What I discovered underneath that was grief, a lot of sadness. And I let go of that sadness, and then all of a sudden the relationship with my ex-wife improved. And the more grief that I let go of, the more that relationship improved. And now we're really good friends. It's 8 years down the line, but you know, this happened a number of years ago, and I realized that, you know, a lot of what we think happens to us actually happens to help us. But we need a shift in perspective and it may be difficult for the single fathers out there to say, how could not seeing my child actually help me? And this is what I want to discuss later on, that if we can take a shift in perspective and see that actually this circumstance is bringing up in me feelings of grief, sadness, disconnection that I can let go of, and then that reconnects me with my child. But until these feelings are addressed, we're gonna attract situations that disconnect us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. It does make sense. You know, and we will be visiting this conversation. We will be having this conversation again, this topic, because I feel deeply it's a topic and a conversation that needs to be held. I mean, what you're saying is right. There are sometimes situations happening in our lives. It actually pushes us for us to look at ourselves, deeply in ourselves. Yes, it could be incredibly painful, and maybe you don't even know how it's going to all pan out and how it's all going to work out. But it does make you feel a better person. And I love that, because you've gone through the journey, because you've taken time to look at yourself, all right, to make up your mind. I want to change. I want to be healed. You know, look at all those situations and look at it in a positive light and look at the end result, and to have an amazing relationship with your daughter and as well as the ex. So I suppose that is a topic we definitely need to visit again.
Yeah, and we'll sort of we will reiterate what we're saying again and again, because I know as long as you carry anger towards your ex, then you cannot deal with underlying emotions, and therefore the cycle is going to continue. We must find a way, no matter what they are doing, find a way to love these the people in our lives, and that will change that energy that they have towards us. And then if we're, this could mean that there's we don't need to go to court. We don't need to go to court to gain access to our children, because we've let go of the anger, and that has a corresponding effect to our partner. And now there's just love. And now all of a sudden, there's no battle.
Isn't that fine? But doesn't that then leads on, kind of builds you as a man, your confidence as well, which goes right across on your everyday life and your business, and also with the children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because any tears you cry, anything that you let go of actually helps all your connection with everything and everyone, with your children, in your business, in your work, with your boss, with your family, with your parents. Anything you let go of in that way helps you to reconnect.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, men out there, when the Father Talk Show is not only for all single fathers, it's also for men out there, because we do work right across the border. So we really want to encourage you, wherever you're going through, do seek help, and also how to let go of that pain so that you can become the best version of who you are. Another thing I really love, and this slide, I love this slide very much, because as well as out there with the guys, or even we as women as well, sometimes we don't do what we promise to do for ourselves. Not so much about everybody else is there. So I just really, self-confidence is someone who keeps the promise that they made to themselves. So again, self-confidence, build that reputation you have for yourself, and you don't have to worry about what people say about you. That's a big thing, isn't it? I mean, I think you touch a little bit about that, and about opinion of what people say about us. What do you think?
What about keeping which part?
Keeping the promises to yourself as a man, promises that you make to yourself as a man, and also, sometimes opinions, what people think about us, can hold us back. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think, when we have true, authentic self-confidence, and I want to use that word, authentic self-confidence, as well, not the pretend, then it's much easier to keep the promises we've made to ourselves and to others then, and you start to just trust yourself more as well. And then you don't worry about what people are saying about you. So you get to a place where, because you truly know yourself and who you are, then your ex-partner could say anything and it wouldn't bother you. You would just think, oh, okay, that's interesting, she thinks that way, but it wouldn't bother you. But the fact that if you're in a situation and you're attracting someone who's triggering in you a feeling of unworthiness, then that feeling is already present. They're not creating it in you, it's already present. They're just coming along to help you clear it. And it may not look it at the time. It may look like they're being horrible, it may look like they're being abusive, but ultimately at the deeper level, everything happens to help us in some way. We just need to change that perspective to see that yes, this person is not being very nice, but what's it bringing up in me? If it's bringing up a lack of confidence and that our feelings of I'm not good enough, then maybe that's what I need. That's what's been buried inside of me. That's what I buried inside of me a long time ago, before this person came along, and now they're coming into my experience to clear it. And we can go to a lot more depth around that, but if we blame the other person, we cannot let go, and that's the challenge.
It
Long as
does.
Sorry.
Sorry. Go on, finish. Sorry.
I was just going to say, as long as we're stuck in blame and anger towards the other person, we cannot deal with what is coming up inside of us. So we cannot let it go and change our internal state. We have to truly let go of blame. And sometimes that is very difficult to do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I had a friend who blamed so much things what their parent did at the past. But I said to that friend, I said, but look, now you're a man. I know it's difficult. I know it's painful, but now you've got your own life in your own hand. What are you going to do about it and everything? But I really believe what you said is so true. People come into our life sometimes and they do things and they're thinking, oh my God, this is so painful, but they've come to remind you to let go of that pain, or to teach us something for us to move further, move to a newer and higher level. But I definitely, to all the men out there, or even some of the women out there, it's so important that promises that we've made to ourselves, not much less our children, or anybody out there, they are so important to us, how we move forward in life. The father talk show, have I ever done something like that? No. For all I knew, 2020, I needed to do something. I needed to put a program to do with men and to support them. And guess what? I started my first one, which you came in as a guest, and the second one, and of course, today, our third one. And of course, the Facebook. And next time I'll make sure you're handling that. But again, all that has kind of built my confidence. I don't have the full picture, how it should look like, but the thing is, I took the first step. So it's the same there for every guys out there, single fathers, men, just take whatever it is, whatever your dreams is, whatever you want to do, whatever promises you made yourself, just take that first step.
Yeah, totally.
To build the confidence. We're just rounding off. What do you think of my picture? I love pictures.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's what it does to us, as a man, when you got that confidence, when the genuine confidence that you've been talking about, it just makes you, in fact, the confidence makes you not close, but the confidence gives you that smart, handsome, fresh, interesting looking.
You like that, Margaret?
What do you think? What I just said.
Yeah. I think, 100%. I think when you're in that place and you're feeling confident, you're feeling motivated, then you tend to dress differently, act differently, speak differently, interact differently, and people are attracted to be around you, other men as well.
Definitely.
But
so just a quick points, have you got any quick points how we can men to be supported and everything? Just a quick few points if you've got any that you've used that you find us helpful.
So say that again.
Supporting, quick points on how to support men, out there in our community. As a single father.
Am I speaking to females, or am I? Oh, for me, how I would support men, or how
men? How what can men do in terms of maybe how can the women support their men in their life, or generally support the single fathers within our community? You being a single father as well.
I think if I was speaking to women, I would say acceptance and later on love. So regardless of what's happened, is to try and accept each individual for who they are, rather than trying to change them, and trying to love them for that, for unconditionally, and it's not an easy thing to do. And if I was speaking to men and in relationships to their exes, acceptance and love are the key to dissolving feeling barriers. And and I know it's maybe a bit of a cliche to say that, but it's really important to be able to choose. And it really is a choice of acceptance, a choice of love. And then in doing that, we may discover that when the anger disappears, there's this grief, there's this sadness that when we let go of, now we start to reconnect. And not just not just as a as friend, sorry, not just romantically, but actually as friends. We start to reconnect with our ex-partners as friends, and therefore as our children, we start to reconnect with them more deeply too. But it's a choice. And yeah,
it's fantastic. That just runs in smoothly, because I wasn't going to do this part of the slide, but I think I'm going to put this slide on, and on a woman's point of view in terms of what we should do to support our men out there. Now, I've put in 5 things here, how we can support our men. And I love what you've been talking about, Daniel, because I really love that. Because as you went through the journey, letting go your pain, it's kind of taking out all your limiting beliefs and all your blockages and everything like that, is now bring it to have a really great relationship with your ex, and which then kind of transferred to also a great relationship with your child as well. So which is really, really fantastic. But I just really, really want to encourage the women out there, because our men need support. They need the love. Let's respect the men. If you're married, you got a partner or whatever it is, or your brother or your children. First of all, what men needs is respect. All right, let's respect our men out there. Again, if you're a single parent, you're bringing up your children, they're 2 boys, again, treat to respect yes, they are your children. It's something I said to my son, my youngest son. I said to him, I'm going to be your mother till the day I die. That's not going to change. You're going to be my son till the day you die. That's never going to change. But what is going to make our relationship a lot better and a lot stronger, one, we're going to have to be friends, and we're going to have to work on it, because it's kind of total. And then what I had to put in place, and this for both of my sons as well, is respect. All right, it's respecting them. And as we're respecting them at a younger age, as men, and they grow up, they would begin to understand, to have that respect for themselves as well. So ladies, let's respect the men out there. Let's appreciate them. All right. It may take them a little bit longer. Daniel, you can correct me on that. It may take them a little bit longer. He's laughing away there.
Margaret, I think Margaret, I think it's important to understand we don't necessarily have to agree with what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. We're not asking people to agree, but it's respect for being a human.
Yes.
Yeah, and that, I think, for that's important.
That is important. Yeah, respect just being human, and shapes our men out there, our younger men, our older men, our middle-aged. Just let's appreciate what they do within the community, and what they do at home, what they do in the household, what they do with their children. Let's appreciate them. All right, let's accept them. We want to be accepted. We want our guy to accept it for all our faults and who we are. So we need to do exactly the same for them as well, accepting who they are. That is so important. And let's give them space. All right, let's give them space. When they're down, give them space, let them go out there. It took me a long time to kind of understand all these things I'm talking about, even with my sons and everything like that, to know they are men. All right, they're no longer children. They are grown up. They need their own space to go out there and find life. So let's respect them. And please, 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 let's consider the man in our lives, their opinions, that they are important. All right, let's consider them. So again, I want to encourage, if you're bringing up young sons out there, young kings out there, I'm going to call them men kings because they are kings. And if we can have that in our mind, we will have to respect them would make it so much easier. So, and one of the things is not to dismiss them. We may not agree with their opinion, but let's consider their opinion and let's work with them.
Yeah, I think that's really important to, you don't have to agree with someone, but we can actually listen and truly listen. Listen, okay, what is it they actually trying to say? Because often when people are stuck in anger, they can't truly see what the other person says clearly. So, yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. As we're coming to the end of our Father Talk show, I want to say to our viewers that thank you for being with us. But again, I just want to leave this encouraging word there for us. Success is a journey. It's not a destination. As a single father, anything that you're doing out there, being the mother, being the father, and making a wicked bacon sandwich Saturday's breakfast for your children, and you're doing amazing and wonderful work. And just remember that it's all a journey for us. So thank you very much for listening to us and being with us today at the Father Talk Show. Thank you so much. Daniel?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to listen. And we really hope you've learned something and that you'll join us for the next one.
Yeah, thank you. We look forward to seeing you to the next one. Should we say bye-bye?
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.